My God, this was an incredible film, amazing film. Throw whatever adjective they've thrown at the Spider-Man universe before, and that's what you get with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is a movie that just loves to play with all the conventions that we've not only seen in the previous Spider-Man films, but in basically every blockbuster. Whether it's a last-minute save, a character having a fun little quip, or let's say there's a love interest, or as the movie puts it itself, one character meeting another in an unusual circumstance. This movie has it all. It has fun with the conventions, it has fun with the characters, and the style is what really makes it shine. Because if there's one thing that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse proves, is that it is a movie where if you make something that's animated based on a comic book, chances are you're going to capture that spirit of the comic book far greater than you're going to capture it in a live action movie, because people aren't thinking about the CGI or how an effect was done or anything, or even the amount of characters that's in a story or things that are tangible, because guess what? This isn't the real world. This is an animated world, and it is the most colorful world ever. This is a movie that you definitely, if you drop acid, wow, you're in for one hell of a trip with this film. This is a comic book on screen in the best possible way. This was literally just an orgy of colors that's just absolutely spectacular. From the MacGuffin of the film, which is this universe-changing device, towards the final act of the film, where there's just literally like someone just took a crayon set and just scribbled all over the screen. And you're going, oh my God! This is basically what Ang Lee wanted to do with the Hulk if he made the Hulk more of a less serious film and something more colorful, where he tried to capture that comic book style in a live action way, which was extremely irritating. This movie does it in cartoon form, where every hit is met with a very slight little whack or smack. Think of the old Batman TV series that was produced by Andy Warhol in the 60s. It's that, but a little less ridiculous, where it fits the style of the film. I mean, right now, I'm just thinking Phil Lord must be laughing his ass off at Disney right now for firing him over Han Solo, because as they kind of said in a joke in a Q&A, they hope that movie shits the bed. It did, and this movie leaps from the bed, straight out the window, swinging across the city. It is just mind-blowing. The amount of characters in this film is staggering. If you had a complaint about how Spider-Man 3 was bogged down with the amount of characters that were in that movie, well, fear not, because guess what? This is why with Spider-Man 3, because that was live action, and they're trying to connect all these characters to a bigger arc and to a bigger story, and they're just trying to kind of have everything work in this very arc-like sort of structure. This is a film that says, not only are we going to give you 3 villains, we're going to give you 50 villains, and they're all going to come at you, and by now the movie knows, look, you know the story, you know who these villains are, here they come, and there's some very huge derivations on them. First off, this is probably my favorite on-screen adaptation of Wilson Fisk, who is the movie's main antagonist. Now, if you don't know anything about Wilson Fisk, he was sort of the bad guy, the main bad guy in a lot of Spider-Man's universe. He was the guy that would team up all the bad guys, from Scorpion to Doc Ock to Green Goblin. Everyone would work under him. He was the criminal mastermind. And he's so much better than, because the on-screen adaptations I think that we got was Wilson Fisk with Spider-Man that was on Fox Kids Network in the 90s, who is honestly my second favorite adaptation. He's better than Vincent D'Onofrio's version of Wilson Fisk, who I've seen Daredevil, and I just think he's too cartoony. He like, nobody talks like this when they're evil. Oh, I'm a bad guy. This is my bad guy voice. Like, he was playing too much of Sergeant Pyle from Full Metal Jacket in here. And here, Wilson Fisk is a guy with a thick Brooklyn accent, but he's not stupid. Okay? Imagine if a guy like this was actually rather intelligent and knew what he was talking about. He combines all of those elements together into one character that really works spectacularly. I say spectacularly, yeah, it's a joke, so what? All right. But you get the idea. And you got, Fisk's whole backstory with his family and all that in there. And the great thing is we have 5 different versions of Spider-Man coming together. You have a Spider-Man who's this fun little anime character who drives like a cartoon Spider-Man. You have literally a Spider Pig, kind of like The Simpsons, who's basically, and there is a punchline, but who cares in this version? You have Gwen Stacy, who basically sort of plays Black Cat, and you have multiple versions of a Peter Parker in this film. And this is a movie where, if you're not a fan of movies that rely on other dimensions or time travel to tell a plot, then you're going to have a problem with this. But guess what? The plot devices are put in movies because they work, and they allow you to do crazy things that you can't do in other films. For instance, this movie, and this is just a slight spoiler, there's multiple versions of Peter Parker / Spider-Man in this movie, okay? And our main hero in this movie is Miles Morales. He's essentially what we all know as the Black Spider-Man. He's the protagonist. He runs into all these crazy characters in the movie. But essentially, the version of Peter Parker, or versions, I should say plural, that he runs into in this movie are so different than what we've seen before, where, you had Tobey Maguire, as we know, is basically a big crybaby who doesn't know how to dance. And by the way, this movie definitely throws some shade on Spider-Man 3 in the very beginning, which was, very self-conscious, but also Spider-Man's been through some shit, and Sony's been through some shit too, especially with their joint custody battle of the character with Marvel, that it was kind of granted and okay for them to put that in there. That's kind of what this whole movie happened in the first place. So you had that Peter Parker. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm literally just responding initially from this film. So my thoughts are kind of scattered until they're going to get more refined later for the official review. But essentially, you have a Peter Parker who's the one that we all know and that we all love, but he's older in this movie. Maybe he's in his 20s. And then there's another Peter Parker who's the real interesting one, who has to find his redemption. And as I was talking with Patrick McDonald on the last episode of my show, several segments we put together in one episode, a lot of movies are essentially about finding redemption. And this is a Peter Parker that's trying to find that. His marriage with Mary Jane didn't quite work out. He wanted to have kids, she didn't. He basically just let himself just get fat. He's eating pizza. He's cynical. He doesn't care. He's not cynical like Luke Skywalker throwing the lightsaber over his head saying, fuck everything, cynical. But he's not the Peter Parker we all know. He's just kind of fed up with everything. And of course, it's up to Miles to bring him back. And essentially, all these characters are brought together because of this big MacGuffin device in the film created by Kingpin to create this entire universe that changes everything. Now, maybe that's one flaw of the movie, is I didn't understand Kingpin's motivation in the film, other than he wanted to get back at Spider-Man because his family found out how much of a monster he was when they discovered him trying to kill him and stuff like that. But I digress. This is a movie that uses its style as a very crude way to put it, an excuse to just shove as many different interpretations of that character possible into one movie. But boy, when those characters get together and they just play with all these conventions that we've seen in every film. It is an absolute joy to watch. Everyone gets a little moment to shine. And for the characters that do need to be developed in the film, they are well developed. And right from the get-go, you feel like you are transported into a comic book, into an anime series, into a stop-motion film, into all these ridiculously insane styles that is just mind-blowing to watch. Now, I can't wait to do some research on this film and figure out what's going on with it, but I'm exhausted. I barely got any sleep. I've been working 24/7. So, in the meantime, these are just my initial thoughts, and I give this movie a high recommendation. It's 4 stars for me. This is a 4-star movie. This is going to easily be a contender for best animated feature film of the year. And this isn't another Spider-Man movie where it's just another footnote in the franchise, or maybe we'll forget about it, or it'll be kind of something we joke about like the Amazing Spider-Man films made by Mark Webb. This is something that I think a lot of movies might actually run towards when making a film that is based on a comic book that maybe Sony finally found their voice in the Spider-Man franchise, because they did not want to let go of that character. You know, everyone's lost everything to Disney. Disney is Thanos. They have all the Infinity Stones. They have Marvel. They have Star Wars. Oh, they're getting 20th Century Fox now, so they're also getting the X-Men and all that. So Sony said, we have to make our own Spider-Man version. How are we not going to make it the same thing again? And Spider-Man has been through so much, so many different interpretations, from the familiar story that was originally introduced that worked for the time with Sam Raimi's films, up until the 3rd one, to the Andrew Garfield, just basically rehash vomit all over the screen, to the sort of refreshing Ferris Bueller take with Spider-Man Homecoming. Well, this is something where I think comic book movies will, much like Batman Mask of the Phantasm and the animated series that was subsequent to that, maybe some comic book movies can finally move into the animated realm, and this can open a lot of doors for some creative possibilities that are out of this world. So yeah, go check it out. Hopefully I'll have some more structured thoughts, as I certainly have a lot more things I want to say, but wow. All my friends were saying early on, because they get press screenings and stuff like that, like, oh, this movie's so amazing, and I was like, yeah, it probably is. Like, they're probably right, just considering the style I saw, but wow, when you see it, you just halfway through that movie, I just said to myself, this is really unique. And yeah, please go check this film out. This is, in terms of Hollywood blockbuster films for the year, this is the best blockbuster of the year. And I don't see any other blockbusters taking this one down. Okay, thank you. Remember to rate, share, subscribe, and you'll probably agree.